Good morning. I'm Stephanie Snowden, and welcome to this edition of Council Corner, your news and information show about County Council's strategic priorities. Joining me for this edition is newly cemented Chairman, Mr. Kelvin Washington. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Washington.
Thank you.
Now, you were sworn into office in November of 2008 and represent the great district of Council District 10 and now everyone else. And I know that you've really distinguished yourself as an expert in transportation, and probably not surprisingly, you're an engineer and you have been employed with the South Carolina Department of Transportation and currently serve as the Vice Chairman of the CMRTA. And so I know, along with a long list of other things, I want to start off the top just talking about transportation. Where do you see the county, and what do you see your priorities?
Well, right now the priority for the county is the penny sales tax. Everybody's speaking to it, and the CMRTA's existence. We're working on putting the penny on the ballot for November, and now we have to sift through all those projects to figure out which ones would be a priority for the county. We have to look at countywide first, of course, and then of course the city's priorities as well. Hopefully I can put a team together from the city, local business, and the county council to start sifting through those projects.
All right, it sounds like what you're saying is that I know that the business community has kind of lobbied the council hard, and it does seem like you all have really also been on the forefront in many ways in helping to kind of salvage what bus service we actually have. And so what I hear you saying is that that there should be some sort of, that you all will push to have some sort of something on the ballot in November, but right now maybe not knowing exactly what those priorities will be.
Correct. We're going to meet in the future, near future,
and kind of
to start prioritizing those projects. And also the budget, the bus system is a priority for us because we stepped up, the county did, when the city was handed the system from SCANA. We were not involved in that process, but we knew the importance of having a continuing bus system. Economic-wise, is very important. When companies come in the community, first thing they ask is their reliable transportation.
A mass transit system.
Exactly. And for us not to have a bus system, it just wasn't possible for us.
And I want to step back from because I know that you have to have you've had a global perspective, and I'm sure never more so as chair, but when you look at where the service is, it very often isn't in the extreme areas of the southeast or southwest and in the northern portions of the county.
Correct, and there are models around the country where you have rural and urban transportation networks, and you can bring folks from the rural parts of the towns and communities into the urban area and get access to transportation. And that is one of the tasks that our new executive director for the CMRTA, he's going to redesign the system. It wasn't designed optimally, and he's going to look at that as well.
It doesn't seem like probably over the last 10 or 15 years, as the community has grown, that the mass transit has grown with it in the thoughts. And I know that one of the things when we were talking on the radio, there are lots of seniors in the community
Correct.
that don't have any other option to get to doctor's appointments and things like that. And sometimes, in some instances, they're getting gouged by people
and
that
that's
are taking
what
advantage.
And Dr. Snyder is looking at that, where the services are, where the demographics are, and tying those pieces in to make sure we can optimize the system to get those folks to those needed services. We have a growing elderly population, and they have to get access. A lot of them don't drive anymore, so we can have smaller buses pick them up from their homes. They call it call and ride, and those type of services we can implement.
And we also have a substantial disabled population,
Yes,
folks that may not be able to see or may not be capable of driving that need services as well.
Exactly, and a lot of them use their local taxi services, and a upswell of small businesses has arisen from the lack of transportation, and those folks as well, the handicapped, the seniors, and also the blind, have been utilizing these, and they cost. Some trips, from conversations I've had, have been $30 round trip.
And if you're on a fixed income,
yes,
that can really kind of make you make some tough choices.
And I think on the radio station we spoke about that. It was an elderly lady that called me, and she was charged $30 one way to go to town. And she's on a fixed income, and she's making only $800 a month. So, the transportation is very important for the quality of life of a lot of people.
And as our population ages,
Yes,
as
ma'am.
the boomers come online and everything, it seems like it's going to be an even more essential thing as people age and are not able to drive.
I
And
read a report, and it spoke about in the next 10 years that population growing, and it was going to be a 50% increase. And they're an active population. They still want to have access to a lot of the amenities that we provide, parks, of course, and also health
the
care.
cultural amenities,
Exactly.
museums, and things like
Exactly.
that. What about the budget? I know that it's probably you probably are already getting phone calls from folks, but you'll begin the budgeting process here in a month or two, and that carries on almost through the entire month of June, and with a budget in place July 1st. And you know everybody wants that money.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you see as kind of the priorities in this ongoing lack of growth, I think, economic growth?
When we
in some
talk
sectors?
about prioritizing, I always want to use the term optimization. And we need to optimize the dollars we have and put them to those areas that we can get the most bang out of the buck. And for me, looking at the budget, it's going to be personnel salaries. If you look at the sheriff department, you look at our jails. If you look at that comparison to other counties our size, we pay a lot less than a lot of these other counties, and we're losing a lot of personnel. We train them,
and then they're going
and
on.
they're going on to other counties, and we have to address that.
So that you're not losing personnel.
And we have a lot of folks that overtime, if you look at our overtime portion of our budget, they have to make up for those folks that are leaving. And we need to look at our longevity pay, because we have a lot of employees who've been here a long time, being committed to this county, and we haven't had a raise, I think now 2 years.
3. It's actually been 3. But it's 3, but also, I think a good bit of the employees understand that they would rather be employed, but as you're saying, with what's happening with the compression of the salaries, is that people are coming here, they're getting trained, they're getting their experience, and they're moving
Exactly.
on because we've not kept up
And
with
we
the
have
surrounding
to address
counties.
that. We just cannot let that continue. So that's one area that I'm really got to focus in on.
Education?
Education. What can I say? Well, the school districts, if you look at their budgets, of course the need is there. And they're going to have to work within their millage that we've assigned for those districts. They've been doing a very good job at that. There's some legislation that's coming down that has impacted us and going to continue to impact us this year as well. Act 388 has set us back substantially. So we may have to look at other areas of finding revenue.
That essentially capped the county's ability to
Correct.
increase millage, and so more folks, not just county departments, have had to kind of live within what you have, and you're not able to always pick up the
And that's the thing we're
needs.
going to have to address again this year, that Act 388 has set us back substantially. So we're looking for other revenue sources, but we may not have it. So overall, what I'm saying, we're going to have to optimize the dollars we have and really narrow in on those things that are going to impact us long term as well, because those salaries, to me, is really going to be a concern.
Because it down the future may impact being able to have talented and capable staff. Let's talk about infrastructure. I know that you as chair represent all areas now, but in particular, for several years now, you've represented parts of Lower Richland that didn't have access to clean water, sewer, and even you have a substantial number of dirt roads. I think you may have the most dirt roads
Correct.
in your region. What do you think the county needs to do to kind of address that, or how is the county actually addressing these infrastructure needs?
And we've just got the water system in Hopkins area. That was ongoing for at least 10 years, and I'm glad they've come to the completion of it. The sewer system, if you know, we have sewer on Lower Richland Boulevard, and we're getting ready to, we've expanded the sewer system in Eastover. So now we're going to connect those lines. And that's going to bring a lot of economic development to that area.
Because where water and sewer is,
Yes,
ergo
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
development. So
And that's what developers look at. They look at transportation, infrastructure, and schools, education. And that area is going to be the location for a lot of industries to start looking at for development.
economic development,
Hold tight. I want to talk about the dirt road.
Okay, all
No,
right.
no,
We
it
know
was
you
other-
do. Go ahead, go ahead.
And we have over 256 miles of dirt roads, and I have a substantial portion of them in my district. And I'm glad my colleagues have looked at, we have to look at alternative ways of paving those dirt roads.
That aren't necessarily doing the traditional
Correct.
way to do it because
Right
it's very
now, it's
expensive.
about $700,000 a mile to pave a dirt road.
Really?
Exactly.
700,000 a mile?
$700 to $1 million a mile to pave. And we can pave somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000 per mile using alternative methods. So, and I'm glad we've pushed forward with that initiative as well. Because you have a lot of folks who are traversing a lot of these dirt roads. They got to get through the muck, and some kids have to wear boots if it's raining, then take the boots off to get on the bus, then they have to trek back through it. So I'm glad council's taking that initiative up.
And it can also be a hindrance for emergency personnel, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and I have had incidents when I was a volunteer fireman when we had trucks backed up, stuck in the mud, and we had to literally walk someone out on a gurney from a home. And we've had that occur plenty of times.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned fire service, the unified fire service with the City of Columbia. Big issue on the horizon here in 2012?
It is a big issue. We're reviewing our contract with them. We're reviewing the audits that we've commissioned, and we've come up with a contract and submitted to the city. We haven't got the input back yet, but we're close to putting something together for it.
All right, and then finally, economic development and this region. The council basically directed the county administrator to set up an economic development office. Is it our community rife for continued economic growth?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We sit in the middle of the state. We have, four major interstates, three major interstates that come in. We are the capital city, we have the capital city here. And there are a lot of industries just eyeballing us. And we do have good infrastructure, but also our taxes. Now, when you compare other locations, the incentives we put in place for them to come here is much more attractive at other locations. We lost out on one industry just because of a personal relationship, but they felt that they really wanted to come to Richland County because of our tech school infrastructure and plus the locations to a research university. But they just set up across the river. But because the wife of the CEO was from Lexington County, that's how they got the deal done. But it's little nuances like that that we may lose out on, but competitively against other regions of the state, I mean, you just can't beat living here or moving here.
Now I have to give you a hard time
About?
as the youngster
All right.
because I interviewed our previous chair, Mr. Livingston, and he basically, I said, what advice would you give our newly installed chairman? And he said, well, he has to look at everyone's perspective and then also work very closely with the administration and be able to have some open and honest dialogue. So what do you think of that advice?
No, it's great advice, and he has shared that with me. I
Okay.
thought it was something else.
Oh, something new. No. But he
No,
was
that's
basically saying, because he's done it for 3 years and everything else, and I'm sure you'll put your own twist on anything, but how
No,
do you...
and that's why he's sitting right to my left, so I can pull him in every now and then to help me, God, but...
Because you have 11 cast of characters, or
Oh.
10 that have very disparate perspectives.
Yes, ma'am. And he did a very good job in, like you said, listening to all perspectives and kind of waning the overall consensus to figure out what exactly everybody wants to do. And he did an excellent job. And that was my learning. He mentored me to an extent. I listened to him to some extent, but no, Mr. Livingston did an excellent job, and I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, Chairman.
No problem.
And we'll definitely have you back during, and I'm sure after the budget process.
You're going to ask more specific things about it.
Probably very specific things about the budget.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of Council Corner. And for more information, you can go to our website at rcgov.us. We're on Facebook. You can friend us. We're also on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel. And you can listen every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on WGCV AM 620. That's Richland Radio. That's going to do it. Make it a great week.